Welcome, everyone. Oh, hi, President. Hi, Marla. Great to see you. Good evening, everyone. It is exciting to join together, whether online or in person, as we enter this new year of 5782 together. We begin, of course, with our wonderful choir and our wonderful Cantor as they lead us in Ma Tovu. We continue now with an English reading, and thank you, Mr. Allen, for leading us.
As we begin the new year, we thank you, O God, for the privilege of greeting it as we pray for the guidance to live it fully. Help us during the coming year to do all the fine things which we meant to do someday, but which we have postponed and neglected. If we have been waiting to show someone a kindness, to speak a kind word, to make an overdue visit. Let us do these things now. If we have been waiting to perform an act of charity, to discharge a duty, to assume a responsibility, let us do these things now. If we have been waiting to uproot a debasing habit, to set aside a festering hatred, to discipline and take charge of our lives, let us do these things now. Your years, O God, have no measure. You have set a limit to our days upon earth. So help us to treasure each precious moment. Help us to proceed with all haste to do now, this day, this week, this year, all the things which will make the new year a year of achievement, growth, and blessings.
Amen. Thank you, Alan. We rise at this time as we continue on page 5 of the Machzor, page 5, with Baruch Hu, the call to worship.
Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu, et Adonai, HaMevorach, HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
We may be seated.
Umavir yom u'veilayla, umavdil bein yom u'veilayla, Adonai tzvaot shemo, el chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu li'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Baruch Hu, Baruch shemo. Amariv, Aravim.
Amen.
We continue on page 6, reading about God's love for us.
Ki hem chayenu v'yorech yameinu uvehem nege yomam v'layla v'yavadcha al tasir mimenu li'olamim Baruch atah Adonai
Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo.
Ohev amo Yisrael.
Amen.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'yavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha v'chol me'otecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher enoti mitzvacha hayom al levavecha ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך. והיה עם שמוע
Page 7. והיה עם שמוע תשמע מצוות תשמע.
Adonai Elohechem emet.
Emet.
Page 8.
Umalchuto ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ומרים ובני ישראל לכנו שירה בשמחה רבה ויאמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נורא תהילות עושה מלכותך רוב ענך בוקע ים לפני משה זה לי ענו ויאמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני
ברוך הוא ברוך שמו
Continue now on page 9 with a special Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom. Shalom. Amidenu malkeinu lechaim 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 Sukkot, Shlomecha, Shlomecha, V'takneinu b'eitza tova milfanecha, V'hoshienu leman shemecha.
וצלקן אפיך תסתירנו כי אל שומרנו ומצילנו כי אל שומרנו ומצילנו
Shalom, mi'atav yad olam, ufros aleinu, sukat shlomecha, baruch atah Adonai, baruch shalom, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu.
Just beautiful. We rise, page 10, and we recite Tiku V'Chodesh. It's on the left side also in transliteration in the red. Tiku V'Chodesh Shofar Makes Eleyom Chagenu Ki Chok LeYisrael Hu Mishpat Lelohei Yaakov. Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitkadash v'yikadash shemei Rabbah v'yalma divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayenecho beit Yisrael Bagalav Vizman Kariv V'yemru Amen Amen Yehei Shemei Rabbah Mevarach Leolam Omeomaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipar v'yitruma v'yitnaseh v'yidadar v'yidalev v'yidalo shmei dekudesha berichu le'ela le'ela mikol beracharta v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran bi'alma v'imru amen amen.
We daven quietly, pages 11 through 17. We're welcome to be seated. We continue on page 16 as Shayna leads us with B'Sefer Chaim.
B'Sefer Chaim, B'Sefer Chaim, Racha Shalom Ufarnasa Tova, B'Sefer Chaim, B'Sefer Chaim, Racha Shalom Ufarnasa Tova, Nizacher v'nikatev lefanecha, lefanecha, Nizacher v'nikatev lefanecha, lefanecha, B'Sefer Chaim, B'Sefer Chaim, Racha Shalom Ufarnasa Tova, Anachnu L'chol Amcha B'Yisrael, L'chaim Tovim U'Lishalom, B'Sefer Chaim, B'Sefer Chaim, Racha Shalom Ufarnasa Tova, Yadadai, 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 B'Sefer Chaim, Racha Shalom Ufarnasa Tova.
Beautiful, Shayna. We continue now, Kaddish Shalem, page 19, as Mitch and the choir lead us in Kaddish Shalem.
Yit gadol v'yit kadash shemei rabah, Amen. V'alma divra kirutei v'amlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael b'hagal avizman kariv v'yimeru Amen. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal Shemei dekudesha Shemei dekudesha Le'ela le'ela mikol berchata v'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata damiran b'yama Tushbechata v'nechemata damiran b'yama V'yimeru תתקבל צלותם ובאותם דכל בית ישראל כל דם עוון די ושמיא ויאמרו אמן יהי שלמה רבה אמן שמיא וחיים וחיים עלינו עלינו לעל כל ישראל ויאמרו עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו עלינו ועל כל ישראל
Yashikah, beautiful Mitch, and thank you very much to Shayna and to our choir and to Jeff as well. Good Yantiv, everyone. A joy to be with everyone this evening. And I want to wish everyone a Shana Tova U'Metuka, a good and a sweet new year. This is, of course, a traditional wish on Rosh Hashana that the new year be both good and sweet. To highlight the sweetness, there are many traditions around the world, including the tradition of eating apples and honey. The honey naturally represents sweetness, and sweetness is a crucial part of Judaism. The mystical part of Judaism speaks about a concept called Hamtakat Hadin. This is a concept of sweetening the difficulties in life. Difficulties are part of life, yet through our thoughts, words, and actions, we have the power to make life sweeter for ourselves and for others. Later, I will return to the idea of how our view of the world can sweeten our lives. But first, I'd like to focus on another aspect of our tradition of eating apples and honey. I'd like to focus on the apple, or more specifically, I'd like to focus on the tree from which it comes. Many of us know that the blessing over apples is Borei Pri Ha'etz. We thank God for giving us the fruit of the tree. We thank God that there are trees in this world and that from them we can get nourishment and sustenance. It's really quite amazing. Yes, it's true that money doesn't grow on trees, but there are apples and other fruits which do grow on trees. We can just pluck them off and eat them. It's an incredible bracha. Trees and the fruit they provide are a real blessing. This evening, I would like us to consider the metaphor of the tree. The tree is a symbol which is central in Judaism in general, and in particular, within the Jewish mystical tradition, the metaphor of the tree of life is crucial. When we think of the tree of life, or in Hebrew, Etz Chaim, several thoughts may come to mind. Many of us might hear the words Etz Chaim, and immediately the song that is sung at the end of the Torah service may come to mind. Etz Chaim hi lama chazikim ba v'tomcheha mehushar. Or perhaps we may hear the words tree of life and recall the upbeat English melody. It is a tree of life to those who hold fast to it, and all its supporters are happy. It is a tree of life to those who hold fast to it, and all its supporters are happy. It's really tempting to keep singing, but the drosh must go on. This beautiful quote comes from the book of Proverbs. In its context, Proverbs is speaking about wisdom. Proverbs says, "Joyous is the person who finds wisdom. She is a tree of life to those who hold fast to her, and her supporters are joyous." The type of joy mentioned in the verse, in Hebrew, osher, is best thought of as a type of joyous contentment and uplift of the soul. Going to a comedy club, riding a roller coaster, seeing a Marvel movie are great ways to have fun in life. You know I'd be the one at the Marvel movie. But that is not what Proverbs is talking about. It's talking about a bliss that is found in a life of meaning and connection. When this verse from Proverbs is used in the liturgy of the Torah service, it understands wisdom as Torah. In this context, Torah is seen as Etz Chaim, as the tree of life. The idea is that if we hold on to Torah, if we hold on to our Jewish teachings about ourselves, about the world, about God, then we can have a connected and meaningful life. We can find osher, we can find joy. So in the Torah service itself, we sing about Etz Chaim, the tree of life. And when we read from the Torah scroll, the book that we use at our seats is called Etz Chaim, the tree of life. It suggests that just like a tree, we can find blessings from studying Torah. Just as we appreciate the apple from the physical tree, so we can savor the fruit of our Etz Chaim, our Torah. We can cherish its refreshing teachings which add joy and sweetness to our lives. As we can see from the Tanakh, the Torah service, and our synagogue Chumash itself, the tree of life is central to Judaism and is used as a metaphor for connecting us with Torah, with wisdom, and with the Jewish tradition. Our mystical tradition further develops the metaphor of the tree of life and understands it in a deeper, more spiritual way. The tree of life can be a symbol for life itself, our connection with one another, with the world around us, with the divine, our holy source of being. In Jewish mysticism, often the tree is inverted, so that its trunk is above and its branches, leaves, flowers, and fruits are below. The one trunk above represents the oneness of God above, which gives rise to the plurality of the branches, leaves, and fruits, which represent us and the diversity of our world below. It is also worth noting that from a mathematical point of view, there is a little bit of fractal geometry going on in trees, whereby the whole is repeated in the parts again and again. Just as the trunk splits off into many larger branches, so too do the larger branches split off into smaller branches. Let us analyze one of these parts of the tree by thinking about our Jewish family. If Abraham and Sarah are the big branch, then we are the smaller branches, leaves, flowers, and fruit. When we think about the Jewish family, we can think about our connection to all the other branches and all the other leaves. We are part of one big Jewish family that extends well beyond ourselves. One of the ideas that is most meaningful to me is our connection to Jews, no matter where they are in the world or when they live in time. We may feel that we are separate, and in fact the world can present that way. We are each in different places, either in the synagogue this evening or in our homes, but the deeper reality is that we are all joined together. Jewish mysticism emphasizes the unifying connection that undergirds the seeming separation on the surface. Separation can be tough. There are many beautiful parts of creation, and God recognizes that again and again in the beginning chapter of Genesis. Again and again, God says, it is good. But when does God say it is not good? Lo tov. Only when there's a feeling of isolation and loneliness. Lo tov heot ha'adam levado. It is not good for a person to feel alone. Part of the power of the Jewish mystical tradition is its ability to remind us of the ways in which we are not alone. If we allow it, Jewish mysticism can remind us of our deep connection with God and with others. When we feel that we are part of a family, we can feel that connection. We are not isolated, detached branches. Rather, we are all connected, all part of this tree of life. And so whether we find ourselves in separate seats in our Adath Israel sanctuary, or whether we are at home, for everyone connecting to this service, you are part of our family. You are part of our Adath Israel congregation. Moreover, we are part of the wider Jewish family, who on this day are all beginning this new year together. Just because we are not all physically in the same place does not mean that we are not linked with one another. Whether we are in Cincinnati, New York, or LA, whether we are in Mexico City, Paris, or Moscow, whether we are in Haifa, Tel Aviv, or Jerusalem, on this day of Rosh Hashana, we are all connected as we enter this new year together. And as we enter this new year together, we are not only connected with people across the globe, we are also connected across time. On these high holy days, we think of and honor our loved ones who came before us. We are continuing in the pathways of our people. We are upholding the teachings and the heritage of Sarah, our mother, and Abraham, our father. They are the trunk, and we are the fruits of the generations. So we are not only connected to all of our Jewish siblings across space, we are also connected across time. I want us to really feel this connection, this deep and beautiful connection that transcends space-time, this powerful connection with our Jewish family. We are all part of this beautiful Jewish branch, this tree of life. We are all part of Am Yisrael, the people of Israel. It is up to each of us to strengthen the feeling that we are connected. We can take a moment to remind ourselves. We can pray when others are praying. We can listen to the blast of the shofar as Jews have across space and time. And through these actions, we can work to internalize that we are connected to Am Yisrael. The Torah tells us that our connections run deeper still. The Torah strongly and powerfully highlights that we are all part of one single Jewish family, and ultimately, one single human family. Each of the peoples and nations ultimately connect with one another. All of us are children of Eve and Adam. We are all part of one beautiful human family. Adam is the first person whom the Torah talks about, and the Hebrew cannot be more profound. Adam in Hebrew means earthling. Adam from the Adamah, the earthling from the earth. The Torah tells us that we are connected to the earth, and it is from her that we derive. And then the Torah reveals to us that the earth and all its fullness ultimately come from God. God is the source of all, the root and the trunk of this beautiful tree of life. The tree of life is a beautiful way of understanding reality. Through the tree of life, we are all connected with our Jewish family, with our human family, with our world, and ultimately with God. We are reminded that we are not alone in this world. No, we are deeply and profoundly connected. At times, all of us can feel lonely. We may be the only one in our home, or we may be with others and yet still feel alone. But our mystical tradition seeks to remind us of the connections that underlie our lives. And this knowledge of our connection can help lift us up. It can provide us with meaning. It can sweeten life itself like honey. Regardless of where we find ourselves physically on this holiday, we are joined to one another as we enter this new Jewish year together. We can hold on to that connection. We can hold on to the Etz Chaim. It is a tree of life to those who hold fast to it. Those who do can find a life of meaning, connection, and purpose. Those who hold fast to it can find a life of osher, a life of joy. This year, may we deepen our connections with one another. May we deepen our connections to our Jewish heritage and to our Jewish homeland. And may we deepen our connection to the Holy Blessed One. I wish everyone Shana Tova Metuka, a good and a sweet new year. At this time, we can continue back in the Machzor as we turn to page 23. In a moment, after we recite this prayer, we'll continue with Kiddush and we'll rise. But first, we enter in on page 23 on the left side in English, reading together in the middle of the page. In your great kindness, aid us, Adonai, our God, to embrace this Rosh Hashana with love and overwhelming joy as a gift from you. Through the celebration of this sacred Rosh Hashana, may we attain a full and true faith. Help us to gather together the sparks of holiness within ourselves as we join with all the people Israel congregating from their individual homes and joining together on these holy days of Rosh Hashana to bless your sacred name. We rise, page 24 for Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol am, v'romanu mikol melashon v'kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'titen lanu Adonai Eloheinu be'ava et yom hazikaron hazeh yom truah mikrat kodesh zecher litziat Mitzrayim. Kivan v'charta v'yotanu kidashta mikol ha'amim udvarcha emet v'keyam lad. Baruch atah Adonai melech al kol ha'aretz mekadesh Yisrael. 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 Melech al kol ha'aretz mekadesh Yisrael v'yom hazikaron. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kiyimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Shehechianu v'kiyimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Shehechianu, Shehechianu, v'kiyimanu, v'kiyimanu, v'higianu, v'higianu lazman hazeh.
We continue now. We remain standing. The ark is open. Page 25 for Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, la'tei gedula li'otzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoyei haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kaem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים יוסד הארץ ומלשב יקרו בשמיים עמהו ושכינת עוזו בגובי מרומים הוא אלוהינו אין עוד אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו ככתוב בתורתו וידעת היום והשיבותה אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים עמהו והארץ מתחת אין עוד ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד ושמו אחד.
Once the ark is closed, we may be seated. In a moment, we'll continue with Mourner's Kaddish, which is found on page 26. Before we do, we'll first remember those who have yard sites on this Monday. Edith Kogan, Miriam Levine, Jack Minson, Bert Newmark, Morris Plotnick, Jack Pewin, Morris Resnick, Sidney Seltzer, Frida Swillinger, and Nathan Gerber. We also, this evening, remember those whose yard sites are tomorrow, Tuesday, and whose yard sites begin this evening. Mamie Gutman, Josephine Katz, and Rose Ritchschaefer. Other yard sites to remember at this time. We continue now with Mourner's Kaddish, page 26. Yit Gadal v'yit Gadash Shemei Rabbah Yalmad Yivrach Yerotev Yamlich Malchutei B'chayechon v'yimechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala v'izman kari v'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mivarach Le'olam Amei Maya Yit Barach v'yishtabach v'yit Ba'ar v'yit Romam v'yit Naseh v'yit Hadar v'yit Aleh v'yit Halal Shemei Dekudesha Brichu La'ela Mikol Birchata V'Shirata Tushbechata V'Nechamata Damiran Bi'alma V'imru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'Chaim Aleinu V'Okol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Aseh Shalom B'imromav Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'Okol Yisrael V'imru Amen. We may be seated. At this time, we have a few brief but uplifting announcements brought to you by your president. Dun, 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 dun.
I don't know about the song, but Shana Tova. Thank you to the rabbis, Mitch, Shayna, and Adath Israel's amazing choir for this beautiful start to our new year. and most of all, to you for attending this evening, whether here in person or online. You want more services? We've got them. Longer, more inspiring sermons? Not that today's was short or uninspiring, but yes, we've got those too. You want more Mitch and Shayna and the choir? Yes, we've got those coming. Lunch? Not so much. But for the first 200 people through the door tomorrow who want one, you can get an Adath Israel face mask. They're very pretty. Join us here tomorrow morning for Rosh Hashana services. Morning service starts at 8:30, followed by the Torah service around 10, and then Musaf. Without the Torah processional and social hours, likely will be done earlier than normal by a lot. Please attend however you are comfortable, whether in person wearing a mask, on adathlive.com, Facebook, or our YouTube channel. A reminder to those who register for our youth and family programming, it's tomorrow at 10:30, live and outside. 10, thank you for the correction. It's always good to have experts. The only other service not broadcast to the world is Tashlik tomorrow at 5. It was too hard to run video wires ahead of time to Amberley Green, so it's in person only. Followed by an in-person and online service tomorrow evening at 6. Tuesday morning, we're back at 8:30. Check your email or our website for links and details to all of our services and programs. Shana Tova.
Lashana Tova, Josh. Thank you so much. We continue now, page 27, with the psalm for our season, and we thank Mitch and the choir for leading us.
The Lord is my light and my help. Whom shall I fear?
The Lord is the strength of my life. Whom shall I dread?
My light and my help. Whom shall I fear?
The Lord is the strength of my life. Whom shall I dread?
I'm in on your bed. There's no shame.
Shema Adonai Koli, Shema Adonai Koli, Ekra v'chaneni, v'aneni, Ekra v'chaneni, v'aneni.
I ask of the Lord, for this do I ask. He will live.
We continue now as we turn to page 28 for Yigdal.
יגדול אלוהים חי וישתבח נמצא ואין עד אל מציאותו אחד ואין יחיד כייחודו נעלם וגם אין סוף לאחדותו אין לו דמות הגוף ואינו גוף לא נערוך אליו קדושתו קדמון לכל דבר אשר נברא ראשון בין ראשית לראשיתו הינו אדון עולם וכל נוצר יורה גדולתו מלכותו שפע נבואתו נתנו אל אנשי סגולתו ותפארתו לא קם בישראל כמו שעוד נביא ומביט את אמונתו תורת אמת נתן לעמו אל על יד נביאו נאמן ביתו לא יכול לפעל ולא ימיר דתו לעולמים לזולתו צופה ויודע סתרנו מביט לסוף דבר בקדמתו גומר לאיש חסד כמפעלו נותן לרשע רק כרישתו ישלח לקץ ימים משיחנו לבדוק לקקקת ישועתו מתים יחייל ברוב חסדו ברוך הדיית שם תהילתו מתים יחייל ברוב חסדו ברוך הדיית שם תהילתו.
Yasher Koach. So a few thanks are in order. First, a tremendous thanks, Mitch, to you, to Shayna, to our wonderful choir, to Emily for helping our choir to connect with us again this year, to Live Control, and again to all of you who have come and joined us from wherever you are to enter this new year together. We thank you for joining and being a part of our Adath Israel community. We conclude now with the choir piece, Oseh Shalom, wishing everyone a wonderful and sweet new year and peace.
Oseh Shalom Bimrama Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'akol Yisrael Ve'yimeru Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimrama Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'akol Ve'akol Yisrael Ve'yimeru Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimrama Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'akol Ve'akol Yisrael Ve'yimeru Amen.
Good Yantiv, everyone.
Shana Tova.
Beautiful. Beautiful.